Welcome to the Black Belt Business Podcast. My name is Matthew Brenner, and today I am with Master Greg Silva. And if you don't know who he is, you're going to want to know who he is because he's a legend in our martial arts industry for growing martial arts schools and his own schools. And I asked him maybe about I don't know how long, maybe a year or two ago to come on the podcast, and he denied me. He said, "No, I'm not coming." And I bugged him again and again and again. And eventually he said, "All right, fine, I'll come on." So I'm really excited to have him here today. And he's going to talk about the differences in the martial arts industry in the past and like what he sees now. But he's also going to talk about how he got 113 new students in 1 month. Okay. Which to me just blows my mind. We talked about it briefly before we got on here, but I don't really know the story behind it because most school owners probably couldn't even handle 113 students. I don't think any of our schools could handle that. So I'm really excited to have him on here today. Master Silva, thank you so much for being on here today. Give us a little bit about your background for people who don't know you.
Okay. I've been in martial arts since I was 13 years old. At that time, I got punched in the face by a kid playing baseball, and my dad signed me up for judo lessons, which kind of transferred it into martial arts. So I'm a lifelong martial artist. Opened my first school in 1972, grew to a chain of 5 schools in Connecticut, and decided I could do better. So I was going to move to Florida and look for not only a town that I would just really be thrilled about living in, but also that had a demographics for a great martial arts school. So I moved to Coral Springs, Florida, and I built that school up to about 1,300 people. I only kept that school for 4 or 5 years. I transferred it to a couple of my students. Then I went into the business of tuition billing and martial arts consulting. I've been doing that since like 1994. Still do it. Not too many clients, just a handful, but I love the business of martial arts. I love helping people. And it's kind of what I dedicated my life to.
So you had 5 schools, you said in Connecticut?
Yes.
Is that what you said? So why, if you have 5 schools already rocking, I'm sure it took time to build up to that. Why move all the way to Florida to open up schools?
I had 5 schools because black belts grew up under me and they were looking for the same type of lifestyle, owning their own school. So very similar to what your brother did. I partnered up with some of the schools. I sold a license to a couple just for the name. We had, I think, 2,300 students between all those schools. And then I had a friend up in New York, Evil Valley. Him and I were part of the education funding company. Nick O'Keefe was the owner of education funding company. He goes, "Why don't you just drive up and look at Steve's school and tell me what you think?" So a buddy of mine and I drove up there, and he was really rocking it. I came back. Nick O'Keefe says, "What'd you learn?" I go, "Well, my students do Kenpo. He does Kenpo. I believe, my students are a little bit better." He goes, "There's a difference though. How come he's got 600 students and you have 400 top school?" And I started thinking it was Steve himself. He was really better at training people. He was a better motivator. He picked out better locations. I was on a rural road in Connecticut. There was a drive-in theater. There's farms next to me. He probably had 40,000 cars going by his school. Every once in a while, someone would go by my school. Demographics is another thing. He was much smarter on picking his location. So I was thinking about moving. I kind of wanted to move to Florida. I'm really into boating. I want to boat 12 months out of the year. So I started going to looking for a place in Florida. And went to Fort Lauderdale. All the real estate places said, "You're not in the right place. Go to Coral Springs. It's a real kids' town." So I looked for that location. I found a location, signed for it. So I don't know what I'm going to do in my 5 schools in Connecticut. So that same night, I went out to dinner. I started calling my schools after dinner, and I offered them all the opportunity to either buy out my partnership or buy the schools. And within like 3 weeks, I sold all the schools, and the next thing was to just kind of really build out my school in Florida. So I was looking for a bigger school. I wanted to do it smart this time. I wanted to get a great location. The only thing I was short on staff. The staff was me, myself, and I. That's how I started that school. It was looking for a new challenge. I know people aren't really thinking about number of students, but that was the big thing in the 80s and 90s. Who has the most students? It wasn't really on gross. I want to have the biggest school in the country. I saw I got beat Steve Valley. I went up there and watched him. This kind of just a side note. You see Rocky 3?
Yeah.
Clubber Lang. I mean, Rocky was just afraid Mr. T played Clubber Lang. And when he got in the ring, he got hit a couple times. And Rocky goes, "He's only a man. He's only a man." And that's what I started thinking. These guys are kind of mentors to me, but There are men, I'm men. They just got a little smarter in certain things. So I got to educate myself. I got to become that person that's going to have a large school and be able to do this. So I know that was
Huh.
kind of
So
fast, but there was a lot of inspiration to me with the competition with some really, really smart businessmen and large martial arts school owners.
yeah, I think that's great because you compare yourself against someone who's doing way better. I think a lot of times school owners, they look at the guy down the street who has 40 students. They're like, oh, I'm doing better than him. Or they compare themselves with the other people who are also struggling,
Right.
right? They're not comparing themselves with the people who are doing great. They're just commenting like dojo, oh, they're sellouts. It's like, no, you got to compare yourself with the people that you actually want to be. And like, there's no, it's not bad to make money in a business that you love where you're able to help people in the way you want to do it, right? There's no shame in that. You married at that time when you were in Connecticut? Like
Yeah.
when you saw your cool. So how did you convince your wife at the time to like, hey, I'm gonna sell these schools and I'm gonna all the 5 schools are rocking, they're doing great, but I'm gonna sell them all and start again fresh in Florida.
Right.
Was that just because hey, we're gonna be boat life people now? So how did you do that?
That was a challenge. And when I came down looking for locations, she came down with me and she goes, I'll do this with you, but we have to have a nice house like we have in Connecticut. I don't want to move into an apartment or something like that, which was really stretched for me because I sold my house in Connecticut and then I started looking for something equal. And even back then, I mean, that was in the late 80s, early 90s. So we bought a real nice house and I got a brand new location. I got about $100,000 in my pocket. And I said, I have to start making it, money in this school within 3 months because I'm going to have to pay rent. I've got this mortgage. I mean, I got a little cash in the bank, but it's not a lot. So I set a goal of um, getting 100 students in 100 days. That would put me in position to pay my rent because I had 3 months free rent. So my rent would kick in. And that was kind of my focus on the first 100 days. But getting her to move, she loved the Florida lifestyle. She liked the water, the beach. The weather was down here was perfect. But she didn't really want to change her lifestyle on this move. So put a little extra pressure on me.
Got it. So
I
your
remember
feet were under the
having
fire.
people coming from educational funding company, the board of directors. We had a party at my house, and they go, "Are you kidding? You came down here with that much confidence that you bought a house like this?" I go, "Yeah, I guess that was it."
Yeah. So do you feel like back then it was maybe easier to get more martial arts students? Like, because I feel like whenever I talk to school owners who've been around for a really long time, like I talked to, like Master Kovar or something, like they'll say, hey, we had 800 students, we had 1,000 students. And it's like, that doesn't really exist anymore. Is there a couple unicorns? Yeah, but maybe it's the models change. Like, what do you feel like is different actually?
I think the model really has changed. That time in the mid 80s, that's when Karate Kid came out. Karate Kid was like a huge change in our industry. Like in the 70s, when I opened my school, everyone wanted to be Bruce Lee. I had all adult students. The movies really kicked in a lot of interest. When Karate Kid came out, people started teaching benefits to kids, in life skills. It wasn't anything to sign up 30, 35 students a month. I mean, that was the norm with professional schools. Like if you're talking like the top schools, educational funding company, everyone was signing up that many people a month. Yeah, so it came faster.
Why do you think it's not like that now? Because like
Because
Karate Kid
it
is
was
out
a
now, it's
big
very popular.
decision in the early 90s or the early 2000s. It stinks having 200 students paying $100 a month. I'd rather have 100 students paying $200 a month. Everyone went up on the prices. So when I had my school, it was like $53 a month. So when I was doing like $60,000 to $80,000, I mean that would be totally different now. But everyone said kind of agreed. People started raising the prices because they purposely wanted to sign up less students but make more money. I think that had a lot to do with it. And again, the popularity back in the late 80s, early 90s was totally different.
Got it. So anything now, it's not as popular even with Karate Kid because there's so many other sports that kids play, or like what is it about? Because we just had, I think when Karate Kid started to come out on I think first it was on like YouTube or something, and then it became out on Netflix, and I think everyone kind of expected a big revival,
Right.
right? Not that it was dead, but like maybe something to help us jump, and maybe it helped a little bit, but it wasn't this giant rush. I think we were hoping for. So what is it now, or what do you anticipate that it's different? Why it's different now?
It's a really good question because, money may have a little bit to do with it, but not a lot. It seems like people are willing to spend a lot of money for martial arts. It just
Uh-huh.
seems that there was more interest. People were just, I hate to say it was all due to the movies, but back then people still wanted their kids to have the lifestyle and the moral compass and the benefits and life skills of martial arts. I think they all wanted that. I think it was just more people really searching for that for their kids.
Mhm.
Now that so many other sports are also teaching life skills, I don't think the life skills are unique to martial arts. For instance, my adopted son he likes to play flag football. After every game, the coach teaches them a life skill. So it's no different than a match in martial arts school, and they're always talking about those benefits. Gymnastics schools teach life skills, so I don't think that one unique thing. It seems like more schools right now are trying to get into that, but I don't really think that is so unique.
Yeah, I think
I
it's
have two
funny.
schools in the Pennsylvania area. It's really neat because one is very much on martial arts schools, martial arts life skills. Sorry. The other school is really all about self defense and safety and protecting yourself. They're both dedicated to kids, and they both probably have the same amount of students. So I think
Right.
where the focus goes, the energy flows, and I think there's more people looking for different things out of martial arts instead of all the life skills.
Yeah, and I think it's so funny because whenever you ask, like, I'm sure, like, you speak to a lot of martial arts school owners, right? So I'm sure when you ask, and I've seen this at conferences, like, what makes your school different than the other schools? Everyone says the same shit. They all say, oh, we teach focus, we teach confidence. It's like, dude, that's what everyone's ad says on Facebook.
Right.
Like, that's not unique. Literally, every single person is saying that. How are you gonna separate yourself from the bunch? And maybe there's a certain way you teach life skills or how you present it or how good your storytelling is online. But I think it's maybe the standard is raised. Like kind of like you said, like other sports are all doing this now over the last decade or 2 decades.
Mm.
Not just saying, oh, you're going to learn focus in martial arts. Like, yeah, but you can also learn focus playing football or playing soccer. Like,
Right.
it's like you can't learn those things. It's just maybe we kind of use that supplementally, and now it's like, okay, everyone else does it.
You're talking really now about features versus benefits. Martial arts, confidence, self discipline, self esteem, patience, courtesy, those are all features of the martial arts. Benefits are we have a 5-to-1 student ratio. Our instructors are black belt professionals. Our instructors are certified. So all those things are unique to that school. So I think people are getting confused about I'm going to advertise life skills, but like you say, every school does that because martial arts does that on its own. The benefits of going to your school, what am I going to get? What's in it for me to go to your school instead of someone else's school? One could be I have adult, mature instructors when all the other people have kids teaching kids. So I think you have to say, why should people go into my school over anyone else's? And those are the benefits and start trying to compete against features, which everyone does.
Yeah, I think honestly, I think you have to, in my opinion, I feel like you have to take that even a step further. Like saying, okay, we have black belt instructors. Okay, that's good. That's like saying your car has four-wheel drive. That's great. But what is the benefit of having four-wheel drive?
Yep.
So I like to do the strategy called what do they call it? It's called the so that strategy. So it's like, okay, you have four-wheel drive so that you can drive you can drive your kids home safely after soccer practice in the rain, right? Why we have a 5-to-1 student ratio so that your child gets even more personalized attention so they can progress in the martial arts faster,
Yes.
right? So I think you have to explain that. I think too often it's just like I think even just saying we have black belt instructors is just too surface level. It's like how is this actually going to help me,
Well,
right? And no one cares unless it's going to help them, right? Everyone's like selfish, right? So I think whether even if you're selling an equipment pack, like whenever I train our staff or clients at W Dojo, one of the things I always talk about is like is how do you sell an equipment pack is not just selling them a bunch of crap that you want to give them so you can make more money when they join.
Hmm.
It needs to be clear that these are the things they need for training. And by the way, if you're listening to this right now, I have a little training on this. I'll send it to you for free. Ask me for the training on how to sell an equipment pack and I'll send it to you. But I'll give you an idea now so you can listen to it and you can implement this right away. So whenever we sell an equipment pack, it's like you talk about each item and why they need that item logically. So instead of just saying you're going to get gloves and a uniform and a target and a backpack, and just saying the cost, okay, cool. That sounds like some people might think, I could maybe buy that on Amazon. Maybe I don't need all that stuff. But if you tell them why they need it, then it's easy to sell. Every student that joins our schools, they get an equipment pack. Why? Because we tell them why they need each item. So as an example, you're going to get a pair of gloves. That way your child's able to hit hard on the targets without hurting their hand. Okay, so they can protect themselves. They're going to get a uniform. That way they feel part of the team. Okay, they're going to get a backpack. That way they can put all their stuff in one spot, so it's not flying all over the car when you're driving here. You're going to get a target for practicing at home. That way you can, instead of your child ripping apart your pillows at home, they'll be able to practice at home safely. You're going to get our online training platform, our online training course. That way when you're on vacation or it's bad weather out, your child's still able to practice at home and they can keep on improving. And then, so that's all the stuff you're going to need for training, and then blah, 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 right? So I think that's the next level we have to take it to. Like, here's the thing, and here's why you need it. And that's what makes it easy to sell. You just
Right.
try to sell people a bunch of crap, and you think, all right, cool, I'll get extra $200 when they join. It's just, it doesn't come off the right way, and you're going to turn a lot of people off.
I recommend similar things when I'm talking to clients, and I try to relate it to safety. Just like you're protecting your hands when you're hitting the pads, there's no fluid transfer. That if they cut, there's no blood transfer or anything like that. The pad at home is to protect their knee so they don't hyperextend their knee. So yeah, I believe in that 100%. Great job.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. So, like, now that you've obviously had a bunch of schools, do you still have any schools now, or are you just mainly
No,
consulting?
I sold my last one about 10 years ago.
Hmm. So what made you decide to go from to consulting from actually running schools? I obviously made that transition myself about full time a little less than a year ago. Okay. And I'm curious from you. I'll tell you mine, but I'm curious from you, like, what made you decide to go that route?
I've been consulting schools since the early 90s. Right after I left education funding company, I opened a company called United Professionals.
Uh-huh.
United Professionals was a tuition billing company. At the same time, we did consulting. My idea is if I can help schools get more students, that's how I can grow my company. So instead of getting more schools as clients, I take my present schools, they get bigger, we get more students to bill. So I've been consulting for a very long time.
Were you getting a piece of that billing? Was like a percentage of billing? Is that how it worked?
Yeah, we did. At that time, there was no credit cards or anything like that. Everything was going for coupon billing. When you used to get a car, you used to get a coupon book, and each month you would write a check and send the coupon book. So we'd actually get
Mm.
10%. So if a school
Wow.
school
Okay.
did $20,000, we would get $2,000 from that school.
Wow, so that's way higher than obviously it is that people. If you're a processing company, you get maybe 2 to 3%,
Right.
right? So 10% is like, obviously there's a lot more work involved. Then it wasn't streamlined. It sounds like there was things going in the
Oh,
mail and stuff like
everything was
that.
it was manual. Computers have to be
Yeah,
backed up daily. It was crazy.
yeah. Imagine giving up 10. If you're listening to this, imagine giving up 10% of your revenue just for like processing, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but then if you consider how much some coaching people and consultants get right now, and the money for processing, probably not too much different. Probably,
Well, I mean, the technology's changed. That's
yeah.
what it is. It's
Oh
not. I'm
yeah,
not saying it
big
wasn't
time.
bad before. It's just different.
Yeah, that's why I got out of the billing industry. Everyone's going competing on price, and it didn't have that margin as did before. I actually went partners with a company called ASF International. I don't know if you ever knew
Mhm.
them. They're based out of
Yeah.
Denver, Colorado. Bill Clark was really, really good friends with the person who owned that company, and Bill introduced me to him, and we became alliance partners. And then they finally took over about after 10 years.
Well, okay.
Right.
What makes you bring that up?
Right now, I consult very high level clients. When I say high level clients, 150 students, grossing 150, $160,000 a month. I really enjoy that. I only have like 10 or 12, but that kind of really gets me excited.
Cool.
I'm getting
So
older, so
yeah, yeah, easier to manage. And right now, I'm kind of at the same point in terms of how many clients I take on at a time. I was at 13; that was the most. I recently increased it. I was able to move some things around, so that way I was able to take on a bigger threshold. But I personally much rather be able to help fewer people in a tremendous way than a lot of people in a fewer way, in a
mm,
smaller way. And like, people can be helped in a smaller way through the free newsletter, or the free, the podcast, right? But people want like one-on-one help or one-on-one support, then yeah, I'd rather help the schools that are doing better. And it's funny because in the beginning, a lot of school owners I attracted were like the smaller end, right? They're doing 20K a month, 30K a month. And, now the school owners I attract are multi-school owners,
Right.
right? They already do 50 or 100K a month, right?
Right.
Or they have multiple locations that do 100K a month. And it's the difference in working with those types of clients. Like I remember one time I accepted a client where I really shouldn't have because I don't know, I was probably chasing the money, right? Because I was newer and it wasn't a good culture fit. Like for me and him, because I mean, you have to talk to the person all the time, right? How much of your life do you want to spend talking to someone you don't want to talk to?
Mhm.
It's probably not worth the, 500 or a couple grand a month or whatever, right? It's just not worth it. Like, I
Right.
don't want to talk to a person I hate, right? Or I hate talking to. And it just made the whole thing miserable. So now I'm like, I could be way more selective, which is a lot nicer because the people who I help are able to get results faster. And the people who are usually doing the worst are usually the ones that kick the can down the road. Yeah, I'll get back to you in a month or two. Or yeah, like let me think on some things. But the other people are like, yep, here you go. Here's the money. Let's go. And then they start get results better and they get better case studies and their schools do well and that brings in more people.
Right.
Right. So I think the same thing you have to do with your students. Like you don't want to attract the wrong types of people in your school. If all your ads are about discounts and being cheap, you're going to attract cheap types of people, right? If your advertisements are about certain development or life skills, then you're going to attract those types of people. And those are the people that you're going to want in your school. Yes, you're in it maybe as a retirement job and you love it and you just like want to just help people and the money doesn't matter as much. That's fine. Hell yeah. Like kudos
Uh,
to you. Right. But if you need to make a living out of it, you want to attract certain types of people that can afford, I feel like afford like a premium tuition. Right. Do you agree with that?
no, I totally agree.
Tell me about a time when you had to like fire someone in your schools, whether it's like one of your instructors or a client. Tell me about a time like you had to fire someone and like what actually went down and how you actually did that.
Man, I'm just trying to think who I may wanted to fire at one time.
Maybe you want to fire someone now. I don't know.
I had one person that was, hate to just say embezzling, but taking money out of the account. And so
Uh-huh.
that was a tough one. Not only because was it tough, she was a sister of one of my top instructors. So not
Mm,
only did I have to accuse her, I had to excuse her at the same time trying to keep my relationship with her brother. So
mm.
yeah, that was a pretty tough one. And then I had another one that was just being morally irresponsible. So that person had to go. Those 2
Does that
come
mean
to
like does that mean irresponsible, like, for the relationships with students sort of thing?
yeah, exactly. It wasn't
Yeah,
just
yeah.
relationship with students, it was relationship with, several students at the same time.
Yeah, I think, like, for school owners that haven't had something like that happen to them, whether someone caught stealing, inappropriate relationships, I don't know, like, anything that's been, like, inappropriate, they probably just haven't been around long enough. I think they think, "That'll never happen to me. My team is so loyal," right? Or an instructor leaving and taking students with them, right?
Yeah,
And, taking a ton of students. Like, I know amazing school owners who I think have a ton of character, and, like, at least one of those things that happened to them at some point,
right.
right? Like, it's almost like, if you a heavy that wears the crown, right? You have like a lot of responsibility and people are always going to be trying to take your crown or sneak things by you. Right. I remember specifically, usually like there's red flags that you ignore. And I have like this specific story about where I can recall back to me ignoring a red flag and it me biting me in the ass. So it was around COVID time and I had an instructor, a main instructor leave. Right. And obviously our tuition was cut in half because we had half our students quit. Right. This is like heavy right in the beginning of COVID. Right. Every single person's calling, hey, we want to quit. We want to quit. We want to quit. We had
Right.
Zoom classes within 1 week, but still, people are like, we're scared. And we
Mhm.
were scared. We didn't know. And I remember specifically that I needed to hire someone like quickly, right? Unless I was going to do everything on my own in my main school at the time. And I was trying to help this instructor. So I decided he was like interested in like real estate investing, super into it. So I was like, all right, cool. Like, that's awesome. Like, I have a couple rental properties. Why don't you come with me and I could show you like how I pick the spots, the rent I get, and you could just like be a part of it, right? I was like mentoring. And it was very beginning in the hiring process. So I mean, he might have already been hired, but like, it was only a month or two in. And I'm walking to this property and it was a student housing property. Okay. So like all students live there from the local university. And we're walking through and it's a college house. So it's kind of a mess. Right.
Mhm.
And I do my walkthrough, I do whatever I have to do there. And then I see him like bend down and pick up a quarter. And I'm like, I look at him funny and he's like, oh, look, a quarter. And he puts it in his pocket. And I go, huh. And I was so confused about why he would do that.
Hmm.
And like, I don't know, I was just so thrown off by the situation, but immediately these red flags started going off,
Hmm.
right? And but I just ignored it. I was like, okay, I don't know, maybe I don't know why he would do that. Maybe he thought they moved out and like, but it was super, super weird, right? And it stayed in the back of my mind. Fast forward a year later, a year and a half later, and tuition from retail sales are now going directly into his personal bank account,
Well,
right? So when that happened, I was like, I'm an idiot. I had the warning signs before. I just chose to ignore it because I was desperate and needed an instructor.
mhm,
Right. And so often people show us their true intentions or their true character, but we like choose to ignore it. And I don't know. Hopefully, I make smarter decisions in the future. Right. I
right,
think whenever you make a decision out of desperation, it never works. And you try to approach a girl out of desperation, like, hey, I need a girlfriend or I need a, it's never going to work. Right.
uh,
You got to come from, and I think the same thing for martial arts school owners. If you're like running your own school and like you doing most of the work, but you approach your students or parents of students of like, hey, I need help with class today. Do you mind helping? It reeks of desperation, right? It needs to come off. You need to say it differently. You need to say, "Hey, we'd love to have you come out and learn how to teach. That way, you can build leadership skills. Like, do you want to come out so I can show you how to do it?" A lot differently than, "Hey, I need help today."
right.
Is there a certain? Well, I'm curious to ask you though. Is there certain red flags that you look for when you're entering any sort of business relationship?
I just look for someone who's got strong moral standards. Again, someone who's honest, has integrity. They're going to be loyal. I never, and this is probably the thing, I've never had anyone leave and go in competition with me. And that seems to be very prominent between a lot of school owners. I did have one instructor leave and then open 20 miles away. I mean, that was nothing, so I can help them out with it. So I'm very fortunate enough to choose people like that. What got me interested when you were talking about that, going out looking for instructor, what do you think of hiring from people from the outside? Because when I had my school in Florida, 95% of my instructors came from the outside. I had one person
Mm.
come down from Connecticut. Everyone I hired from the outside. What do you, good luck with that?
Well,
Or,
that's impressive. Ours is the exact opposite. It's flipped. It's like 90% from the inside, 10% from the outside. And from the outside, it's kind of like you're hiring, to me, it feels like you're hiring like a mercenary. Like they might have the skills, they might have, like, it seems like they have the character, but they're not loyal to the flag of your school,
right.
right? But someone's homegrown, they're going to be loyal. They know the systems. But if you didn't know how to train them the right way, I mean, I hired an instructor from South Africa, right? Like, flew him over here. He stayed in my apartment like before we found him a place. And he is now absolutely incredible. We had other instructors we've absorbed from other schools that have ended up being wonderful. We've also had some bad ones.
Mhm.
But then again, we've also had homegrown ones that have also ended up not being a great fit. So I don't know. How did you end up hiring 90% from the out? Where do you even find those
Yeah.
people?
I'll get to your instructor from South Africa. A couple times ago, when I went to visit your brother, I went to the Thursday meeting, and
Uh
he
huh.
likes to take people out, a small group of people out for breakfast.
Yeah.
So the person from South Africa came with us. I'm talking to him. I promoted his instructor to fifth degree black belt.
That's so cool.
Yeah, he came from South Africa to one of our conventions, and we did a testing. So I thought the guy's
That's
last name was
beautiful.
West.
Yeah. Small world.
Okay, so this is kind of getting into my school in Florida. I
Yeah.
told you Steve Valley was kind of the person I was trying to beat as far as getting new students, becoming the largest school in the country.
Wait, can I interrupt that for 1 second? So I am not 100% sure if I'm thinking of the right person. Is that the one who was kind of disgraced?
Yes, he
Yeah.
took his own life probably 12 years ago.
God, and had a bunch of drama along with that. If you wanna look that up, go Google it, but we're not gonna get into that today.
No,
But in terms of running a business, at that time, he was one of the top people, so he was what people looked up to.
yeah, exactly. His program director was going to move to Florida and open a school. His name was Rob Hartman. So I called Rob up because I knew him from just different meetings and everything. I say, sure, you want to open your own school? Why don't you become part of my school? You're an excellent program director. My whole idea right now is enrolling a lot of students. So he did. He came down to Florida and he worked out really good. He was just an amazing program director. I wouldn't get down to Florida to teach, but as far as like doing sales, doing upgrades and everything, he was just phenomenal. Well, we're about ready to get we just got a hurricane in Florida, it's Hurricane Andrew. And I'm talking to Rob. He goes, we have an instructor that came from New York and because he didn't have a job anymore teaching, but he's down here in Florida. He was a model, so he's modeling in Miami. He's cutting trees to make money after Hurricane Andrew. And so he says, you should have him come up and just meet him. So his name was Roger Crawl. Roger came up and he looked like a model. He's like still phenomenal shape. We were doing a graduation. I go, you want to do anything? He goes, yeah, I'll do a form. He did a form and it was like phenomenal. I mean, really, really good martial artist. And so I said, I got to hire him. I can't afford him, but I got to hire him. So he was my second person that came from upper state New York. At the same time, I was looking for a teen instructor, someone to teach my teen class. I'm sure you know Paul Garcia. Paul Garcia, what came down, he was helping me teach my teens. Him and I were being in class on a night at 7 o'clock. We'd have 100 students. It's just him and I. And I said, we got to get a teen instructor. So I was talking to Roger. He goes, I have a cousin from upper state New York. He would love to come down here and be a teen instructor. So I had him come down. And this was like in the Miami Vice area. And so he comes down here. He's got hair down to the middle of his back, blonde hair, totally ripped, all kinds of abs and everything. I go, my teens would love to teach from you. So he was the third instructor I brought in from New York. When I had a team of superstars, I had a team of superstars. All these guys are great martial artists. They're great kids. They're great people. They weren't loyal for me as like I didn't take them and they go through our system. But we knew each other through the educational funding company. So there was kind of trust and you know each other. So and we're talking about the guy who owned that school. He did come down and visit me one time. I thought we were just friends. And he goes, you hire one more person from New York. He says, we're going to have a serious problem. Kind of laughed it off. I go, you're serious?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna start calling modeling agencies to see if they know anyone who knows martial arts so we can hire
I
them.
tell you, this guy, Roger, was amazing. If you ever get a chance to look at some of my old videos that I post on my Greg Silva coaching page, I just put one up and you'll see these guys in action.
Yeah, I'm sure the moms of the martial arts school loved it. I loved seeing him
Yeah,
there.
that was one of the problems.
So why do you think you didn't have more instructors from the inside? Like, why do you think you had to rely on, or was it just faster to get more students?
I didn't have time. All this happened within 2 years where my school really grew. I mean, it grew from like 0 to 500 in 2 years. I didn't really have time to go on my own, but I did have a bunch of teens. I had a bunch of teens that had taken martial arts before at some type of skill level. And I kind of got 5 under my wing. So I had 5 junior instructors that were really good martial artists, but I didn't really have time to bring up adult black belts to teach. I didn't really have an accelerated program back then. A lot of things did evolve because of challenges I had. So when I was having like 50 students in a class, I felt I could handle it, but it was getting difficult. And I started saying, if I'm going to have more students in this, if we're going to have twice as many students, where do I have to be as an instructor level? I go, well, each of the classes is too tough, but it wasn't the 50 students. It was what I was teaching was tough. So we're doing forms and the forms and angles. So like short form 1. So it's got angles in it. All of a sudden you say step forward on a 45-degree angle. Half the kids step back. Half the kids move their left foot instead of the right foot. And it was difficult to teach. So Ed Parker, who founded Kenpo, he was with me when I first opened that school. And I had to get permission. I said, when we're doing short 4-1, it's all about retreating and blocking. Can I have him just go back in a straight line and forward in a straight line? He says, do what you need for retention. So I had to change a lot of what I taught. So they still got the basics and the benefits, but at the same time, it made it easier to teach a large number of people because there's less likely for people to make mistakes. I did less on memory, more on performance. So they didn't have to memorize so much. So I didn't have some people that were good, some people are bad. Everyone could figure it out in 1 or 2 classes. So by teaching more performance, less memory, less angles, more linear, it came easier to teach. So when you and I were talking ago, you have to be before you can become. So for me to become a good instructor, I had to work on my talent as teaching, but at the same time, I had to change what I was teaching. This is how we started rotating curriculum in the mid-90s. Very few instructors, so you have a lot of belts in each class. So for something to be new for everyone, we had to do a rotation. Same time we changed, every school in the country at that time was doing monthly graduations. And so we had to go to quarterly graduations so everyone was on the same page. So a lot of changes had to come for me to get from a medium-sized school to an extra large school.
So, what do you think? How do you think it's different now running a school? Like, if you, let's say, how about this? This is a better way to ask it. Like, you have 10,000, yeah, let's say you have 10 grand. Okay, you're going to a new city. Maybe you're moving to Fort Lauderdale. Okay, maybe there's more kids and family friendly now, and you need to open up a school. Like, what's the first thing you would do?
I know there's two schools of thought. One is location. Otherwise, you don't really have to have a great location. You just have to put more money into some type of marketing. I think it's much easier opening in a real nice location. I have a client
Right.
out in Arizona. He just opened a location last year. He went to a very high end location, 1,200, 1,500 square feet, charging quite a bit of money. He was profitable by his third month. He's a K school now, just being a little over a year, but I think location had a lot to do with it. There was a lot of upscale stores and everything within his area, and he started just attracting a good clientele. I think that model is really good.
Hmm. You mean just finding a high end shopping center or something with a lot of foot traffic, a lot of visibility?
Yeah, Arizona is kind of a crazy place to be. I mean, so he'd look for a good demographic. Arizona has 4,000 people per square mile. There's a or a high population of people close to your school. I think
The
being in
problem
that
is,
type of location is really different. I know I go to your brother's schools all the time, and he's got really, really nice suburban locations. He has downtown locations, different type of people in each one.
yeah. Yeah, he'll argue that the demographics are obviously important. Like everyone knows that. We look at the demographics, how many kids between the age of 0 and 12 and live within a 1 mile, a 3 mile, or 5 mile radius. But the other question is like, okay, or the other thing that matters probably more than that even is like the operator, right? Is the operator hustling and grinding? Are they answering the phone? Are they answering emails? Do they have good quality classes? Or are they not? And if they're doing those things and they're in a good location, they're going to skyrocket. If they are in a not great location, they're not hustling, they're going to struggle for a long time, right? I'm sure you met school owners who are in a pretty crappy location, but they're so good that like it doesn't matter. Like they outwork it,
Uh,
right?
I was at your South Philly school. The guy teaches he's from the Caribbean. He's a phenomenal
Yeah.
instructor. And he just relates so cool with the moms and dads in there. When he's teaching life
Yes.
skills, he gets kids are clapping, the parents are clapping. He stops, explains to the parents exactly what he's doing, how he's gonna be teaching confidence. I thought he was great. So when you have
Yeah.
him, I told him he should be like we call someone who's just like so important in his town. I mean, he's as a karate instructor, but there's so much value in training the youth of that area. And I can see
Mm,
where all the parents would want their kids to take from an instructor like that. So even though
mm.
you have to walk to a school, you can't find a parking space. Uh,
Can't find a parking spot
nope.
there. Yep.
And so people walk there and things like that. Just a phenomenal mentor for the kids in the inner city.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of those classes he teaches specifically are in Spanish or Spanglish, I would say,
Yeah.
because that's where most of the people speak there, right? So he's able to adapt, which I think is very cool. All of our paperwork there has a Spanish version of it, which I think is
Right.
awesome. That we're able to help different communities. So what about the popularity of, let's say, karate? Do you feel like the popularity over the last, let's say, decade has gone up, or do you think it's gone down? Do you think it's staying the same? Like, what do you think? Especially with the rise of the UFC and
Yeah, UFC and everything like that. People are looking more for reality training, even for their kids. And I kind of fought that for a long time because I always believe you keep the art and martial arts, but I think you keep the art and martial arts and still do a little more reality training, depending on what your ideal student is. So if your ideal student is like 8 to 13 years old, I think a lot of those parents are really looking for that reality self defense. If it's lower, like you're looking for the preschool kids and things like that, they're looking more for life skills. So nothing has really changed there when you start thinking, who do I want to teach? What's my ideal student? Where am I going to find that ideal student? And to have just a good way to bring them on board, onboarding, and get them involved. Going back to Action Karate, I think they have a real good ideal student. And I think a lot of the marketing you're doing is phenomenal. I follow you on TikTok or your brother on TikTok with all those mini commercials. I mean, you are
Yep.
tied into your ideal student so well. So when people start seeing your success, they really have to, it's not just where you're located, but it's really how you are masters on teaching your ideal student, and your masters are bringing your ideal student into your school.
Yeah, and I think too often people try to be a little bit of everything. Try to be everything to everyone instead of being everything to someone, right?
Right.
And you really have to kind of stay in your lane. Like, I think most of the time when I talk to school owners and they tell me, oh, we have a taekwondo program and a karate program and a jujitsu program, MMA program, like usually I find out pretty soon afterwards that they've been struggling financially for a really long time. And I'm
Right.
like, did you have too many programs? If you want to add those programs, do it after you're already making a ton of money and like you want to add on to it. But don't think adding more menu items is going to make you more money. It just adds more complication. Keep it simple, stupid, right?
I wrote an article the other week about 3 different pizza houses. You have Chuck E. Cheese, you have like a Domino's, and you have a top end pizza place. They all could
Right.
do really well, but they're all, just like you said, they're staying in their own lane. They have the product and they're looking for people that kind of fit that product, their ideal
Right.
customer. And I kind of
Yeah.
related that to your martial arts school, not to try to be something for everyone, but just to keep the main thing the main thing.
Yeah, it's like you could be a Gold's Gym or you can be Planet Fitness.
Right.
There's room in the world for both of us. No one would have imagined, I don't know, before Planet Fitness opened, I would never imagine a gym could ever last on $10 a month and they serve pizza on Fridays. I would never imagine that. But they showed that was possible,
Yep.
right? Like, hey, this is for a gym for people who like don't want to be judged and they want to casually work out, go sometimes. A lot of people pay for it and they want to say they have a gym membership but don't go. But that's what they look for. If you're like a bulky dude who works out all the time, that's just not necessarily for you. You
Yep.
could use it if you want to. There are some people, right? But that's not really their ideal demographic. So we're going to transition and have a little fun here. So I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions. But actually, before we do that, I have one more question for you. This might be a little bit longer. Is what's one question you wish more people would ask you?
It's a good question. I think when you and I first started talking about this, I said you have to kind of be before you become. And I think they try to think, what do I have to be? What do I have to be doing for my future self? And so it was like me running that school. I had to change curriculum. I had to change my belief on that if I was going to grow into that position. So how would I have to be thinking if I wanted to go from 50 students to 200 students? Because you can't wait to get to 200 students to be that person. You have to be that person at 50 students. You have to be training staff for that 50. You have to figure out how you're going to do attendance, how you're going to do graduations. So you have to be that if you want to grow into that position. So, how do I have to change? What type of thinking? I think the hardest thing for most martial arts people when you're consulting them is it's harder to unlearn than it is to learn. So it's changing those beliefs and becoming the next version of yourself to raising your business performance.
That's great. Yeah, instead of saying like, "What do I need to do differently?" How do I need to be different? It
Yep.
sounds like. I love that. All right, ready for some rapid fire questions?
Yes, sir.
All right, if you can get rid of one martial arts weapon, what would it be?
One weapon,
Yeah, if you can get rid of one of them.
3 sectional staff.
3. Why that one?
So impractical.
So impractical. Okay, cool. What's one technique you think is overrated?
5 swords.
5 swords. Okay, that's an old school Kempo technique.
Old school Kempo. When you say technique, I
Yeah.
just go to technique. I don't go to
Yeah.
basic.
Yeah, no, that totally counts. All right, who would be on your martial arts Mount Rushmore?
Billy Blanks.
Billy Blanks. Okay,
The-
that's
you know,
one.
it's-
We need 3 more.
Going back to my main school, to hiring people from the outside, I
Yeah.
really didn't have anyone good for like doing my competition team. So Billy Blanks and I were really good friends from Connecticut. He was in Boston, I was in Connecticut. And when I moved down to Florida, I brought him down to teach every 3 months. The whole idea is I put him down as a staff member for doing our sparring and competition team. I just think he was a phenomenal martial arts artist, super good friend. I remember going out to California one time. Jeannie and I went out, and so we found out where Billy's school was. Go in the afternoon, and I ran into his daughter. I go, "How's your dad doing?" She goes, "Oh, he's doing real good." I go, "Really?" I go, "How many students you got training here?" She goes, "I don't know, 500, maybe 5,000." I go, "Are you kidding me?" So she goes, "You got to come in the morning. Come at 5 o'clock." He does a class we call Taibo, and he was in there just rocking it. He had a person out front parking cars, and people were just coming in, throwing the keys to him, and he was parking. It was just amazing. So
That's
yeah, I had a lot of
wild.
history with him. He was just a great guy. So he'd be on there.
Cool. So Billy Blanks. We need 3 more.
Paul Garcia.
Okay.
He,
Wow.
he's
Okay.
he's been a mentor of mine for a long time. just a super martial artist.
You don't know who that is, I have an episode with Paul. So you can, if you search Paul Garcia in the podcast
Yeah.
in the search bar on Spotify, you'll find his. All right, so we have those two.
Bill
Got
Clark, not Bill Clark. Yeah,
Bill
Bill
Clark.
Clark. Him and I have been really good friends for a long time. Yeah, he'd have to be on
Okay,
there. And Bill Wallace.
and Bill Wallace. All right,
Bill
very
Wallace
cool.
is a neighbor, not close neighbor, but just down the street.
Okay, cool. What's one of your biggest business mistakes that you turned into a win?
Probably keeping someone on too long. Having had an instructor, and probably gave him like too many chances. And then it's funny because I was talking to a school owner, and he lost one of his top guys, and his top guy wanted to give him a 5-month notice to stay through the end of the year. If I'm going to lose someone, I'd rather lose them today than 2 weeks from now or 5 months from now, because it gets to be kind of a cancer, just getting worse and worse. Yeah, holding on to an
Yeah,
employee too long.
rip off the Band-Aid. Yeah, yeah. Don't just disappear, but you don't need to. Don't need to drag it out longer than it needs to be. Okay, I'm not sure how that turned into a win. Like, what was a mistake that you made that
Well,
was a
because
win?
then
But
it wouldn't happen again. So
okay,
I
got
had
it. Like, you wouldn't have gotten rid of the
I had
person.
one person I kept too long. I don't know if that was a win, but having him leave earlier was probably a win.
All right, what's your favorite late night snack?
Carrot cake.
Carrot cake. Is this like
It's really
homemade
funny.
carrot cake?
I don't really snack. I eat good, but I don't really snack. But last night we were watching some Netflix. Carrot cake. If I had to choose something like that, something sweet, yeah, it would be carrot cake.
Is it? Are you guys making carrot cake, or is it like you could buy
No,
it from the
Publix.
store?
I mean, you're down here in Florida. Publix has the best
Yeah, yeah.
carrot cake.
Publix has the best carrot. People tell me Publix has the best everything. Publix is the best fried chicken. Publix is the best carrot cake. I don't know what you guys are talking about, but I'm glad you like it. All right. What book has shaped your career the most?
The Official Guide to Success. It was written by Tom Hopkins, probably in the 80s. I love Tom Hopkins. He was just so real and just told it exactly the way it is. Not only did I read his book, but I had his tape series. And he did another tape series at that time. I say tape, no one knows what those are, but we used to play them in our cars a long time ago.
Recording. Got it.
He did The Art of Selling Anything. It was all about overcoming objections. I had one school that was 45 minutes away from my house. And when I would drive back and forth, I would listen to Tom Hopkins. I tried to get his voice down and everything. Yeah, he kind of shaped it. How do you think of these things?
I know they're hard, right? Thank you so much for coming on here, Master Silva. If someone wants to find you, send you an email or connect with you on social media, how do they find you?
GregSilva.com.
GregSilva.com. Cool. My name is Matthew Brenner with Double Your Dojo. If you have any questions, you can email me, Matthew@doubleyourdojo.com or Instagram @BlackBeltBrenner1. And it's back to school season time now. So hopefully when you're listening to this, so if you want to add 30 new students in the next 60 days without relying on ads, I mean, students you go out and recruit, not just wait to show up in your door, send me an email and I'll show you the exact strategy we use so you can do it for your school. Same strategy we use for other martial arts schools across the country. So they now finally have the power to go out and recruit new students, not just wait for them to show up. Thank you guys. Bye.
All right. Bye.
All right. Don't go anywhere. I just said stop.